Mike, the Dispensary Guy. I've been following him for a while. He's, I want to call you a journalist at this point.
Yeah, pretty much, I guess.
I think that's what you do. You know, you just cover very important topics in the industry. You know, you go up in there, you show faces CRC as well. I see you started doing lives of the CRC meetings and you know, you kind of have the little background, or I guess like a John Anik from the UFC. You kind of, you know, commentary in between of the CRC.
Yeah.
It's great. It's great. For those that don't know the Dispensary Guy, he is the voice behind the scenes, helping us understand what's really happening in the New Jersey cannabis scene, which is a very important topic. What do you think is the most important stories that you are hearing, maybe that the masses aren't really hearing?
Right now, the first of all, thank you so much for having me.
Nah, man, no
I'm a
problem.
big fan of your program, and I follow it, and I just, you know, we support everybody, and I just, it's fantastic. Thank you, and it's a lovely shop. So the biggest thing I see coming up right now, unfortunately, that nobody's talking about is the towns and what's going on with the licensing and the dispensaries and stuff like that, and the lack of oversight by the CRC and the lack of public knowledge and stuff like that. It's kind of the biggest thing I've been noticing lately these days.
Yeah. It's. I feel like we're so far into the legalization that we're still having some of the similar problems we had at the beginning, with the towns and, you know, blockades and, you know, all this red tape for people to come in into their towns and just, you know, providing a different option of the pharmaceutical realm. Um, so what I ask myself this all the time, even for myself, like what motivates me to get this, you know, to get done? Why am I in this? Why are you in this? What motivates you to wake up and be like, I got things to uncover, I got things to figure out? What's your purpose?
The purpose is to, you know, to stop the stigma of cannabis is basically why I do it every week, to get people involved in the industry. I have a long background. I use cannabis to control pain, multiple surgeries and stuff like that, and to see the opioid epidemic in the early 2000s and see all that, and to live through it, you know, and to see the effects of cannabis has now, and the ability to help people, and people still view cannabis as being such a negative thing, and the ability to get out there and talk about, you know, being in a dispensary like this. It's not like a dark, dank place. It's not an overly medical place. It's a warm, inviting environment where you can come and talk with people, and the bud tenders will explain what's going on and give you the knowledge that you need to be, you know, successful in your cannabis journey. Whether you're not, you know, you're a new, you know, new patient, or you're a long user of the plant. You know, there's always different stuff like that, dabs and everything else. So
Yeah.
like to try to cover all those various things and everything.
Yeah, and there's a lot to cover. There really is. How do you decide what stories to really focus on, and what are, you know, yeah, what makes you, you know, really grab into a story and really dig in deeper? Like or just give an example of a recent one that's been happening.
Sure. Basically, with a weekly live show, it kind of writes itself as far as what's going on in the community. I spend a lot of the time talking with people that I've met, and a lot of people reach out to me with what's going on that week. If there's a CRC meeting or anything like that, we'll cover that. And then, you know, various people will reach out with stories and stuff like that. So I recently just got involved in a story with one of the local towns, and they reached out and felt like, you know, they weren't treated right. And I looked more into it, and I felt like it was something I wanted to get into. So I chose to cover the story on the weekly broadcast. And, you know, that's kind of how it goes, whatever is cultivated in the community that week or anything else, because it moves so fast. And, you know, I could have a whole show planned out, and on Wednesday afternoon at 4 o'clock, something happens that we're stuck in.
Have it, or I feel like, they're just trying to take, I don't want to say my rights away, but like in the sense they're kind of are. You're trying to dictate where I can and I can't, and with who I can and who I can't, because there's certain people that can't. So it's like it gets a little confusing. Why can't we just treat it like I'm brewing alcohol at home?
Without a doubt, that would be very. That's the way to go. I'm not for rescheduling. I'm for full um, defederalization. Just take it right off the thing. That's the way I feel. It's
Yeah,
easiest for everybody else, and then it cleans everything up. But it's just it needs to be. There's not enough people right now in the market, in the regulated market, to handle everything that's going on, and not everybody's has the same information,
yeah,
like, and they're not like it's not like playing by the same rules, but they're not playing in the same script per se.
yeah,
And some areas are doing things a little bit differently, and it feels that other people feel like they shouldn't be doing that, and you have some community, some people like button heads and stuff like that.
yeah,
What happened, because ultimately at the end of the day, people are in this to make money,
yeah,
and it's money drives everything.
yeah, exactly. A lot of us, as well, we do it to feed our families and just maintain, you know, just trying to work in something that we love and we appreciate. Um, what role do you think podcasting or journalism, in a sense that you do or we do, what role do you think it plays in the cannabis industry and moving it forward, or yeah, just evolve the industry?
It's absolutely huge. The things that I do and you do on a weekly basis. It's just there's no media out there. There's nothing covering it. For the ability for a story to get out of the community and the culture, it just doesn't happen. Like, I see things and I wonder whether or not they're going to make it to mainstream media, and a lot of them don't.
Yeah,
And that's what's critical to show a light on the industry and what's going on, and people like Buttigieg and Nata and Charlie and everybody else that are out there shaping the industry. There's nobody telling their stories.
nobody.
There's nobody telling the stories about the people in the towns that aren't getting their licenses,
Yep.
and the possible corruption and everything else, and everything that's these things are happening on a weekly basis, and there's nobody out here covering it.
Yeah.
Never from day one have they been. So, it's very important that we're out here doing it, and
Yeah.
some accountability just in the industry is what's needed.
No, it definitely is. It definitely is. And for it not being on the mainstream media, a lot of the things that happen do go under the radar. Like recently we had a big thing where mold was found, or
Yeah.
contaminated herbs that we consume. That didn't hit the mainstream
Nope.
media, and it should have, because that's something essential to people's health. People are really putting this into their bodies. So it's important, to keep up. And I feel like we are the middleman in between the CRCs, the towns, and all that, and to trying to get the town, the CRC, and these people. We're like a voice for the people that are not heard. And it's a tough task at times, but
It's a
it's
very hard
great.
task, because I find a lot on my show, especially getting into the story about the towns and everything else, and the mold issue that you're talking about, is that I know that through hard work and everything else, I've made a platform. And now, by saying something, what do we say? It matters what we say in the industry
Yeah,
and stuff like that. So I can't be out there, just
yeah,
saying random stuff and like that. But the decision on what we need to bring to light
right.
it weighs heavy on me,
Yeah,
because
we need to recognize it in order to correct it.
you do, but you don't want to be out there, just
Burning bridges and
just
yeah,
making noise to make noise. You know what I
right,
mean? The last thing I ever do is, if I can't like talk positively about it, I really don't want to talk about it,
right,
and
yeah.
stuff like that. But you do need to be out there, and if there's mold in products, we need to talk about it. It's a hard thing to
Yeah,
talk
we
about.
do. We do need to talk about it. Any other industry, if something is found in the food, I'd say food because we we eat it, we consume it. So there's always recalls like E. coli and all this stuff. They wipe the shells off and all that. But it's important information. Regardless, it's just helpful. Not only that, but we hold those companies accountable to get the quality of product that we deserve and need. Especially if regardless if you're a recreational patient or a recreational user or a medical consumer, we still want those clean products and to be good.
Without a doubt, with the CRC, if you want to say you want people to come into the dispensaries and you want them off the streets and you want them off the legacy market, we need a clean market. We need testing. We need quality products. If we can't supply that to the customers and everything else, then we don't have a leg to stand on as an industry as a whole. And
Right.
that's just one of the backbones of the industry. We need
Oh
the
yeah.
flour and everything else to be clean, and everything that we say to be truthful.
Yeah, definitely. Because the flour comes, the extracts come, the edibles. So the flour is really needs to be really, you know, um, be able to be consumed safely. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, you said something earlier that really caught my attention. That you consume cannabis for medicinally and pain wise. I do too. I was in a car accident about 9 years ago, and I was ejected. I shattered my pelvis. I ripped my urethra. Had to learn how to walk again. So I value the plant very much as a medicine. RSO really, I want to say saved my life because I was a zombie after all those medications and you know all these blockers and all this other stuff, and like it just turned me into a zombie. Um, and if I didn't get in cannabis, my walking would have been delayed because I was on gabapentin, which blocked my nerves, which I needed it in order enable to, help me walk. So I want to know a little bit about what your journey in the medical aspect, and how what was your preferred way, to consume it medicinally, and maybe talk a little bit about your injuries.
Yeah. So I through growing up and everything else, I did have an opioid problem. And I've been clean for many years. I want to say almost 20 years.
Congrats. It's
Yeah.
a very
So that was never an option when it came time for surgeries, back surgery and stuff like that. And I had torn bicep tendon and everything. And those sorts of things were just never on the table for
yeah.
me. So to be able to smoke cannabis and work with the doctors and talk with them and, be like, this is how we're going to handle it. You're going to do what you do when I have my surgery. When I go home, I'm going to smoke cannabis. Don't worry about where it's coming from or anything like that. But this is what we're going to do. And that's how I made it through. I can't to see how many people you talk about the opioids and everything else, what it does to people, and the holes it can go down, and it's just this doesn't do that, and we shouldn't be going down that road anymore. We don't need to. We need some medical research and let the doctors and stuff really get into it and see what we can how we can help the patients without making them sit there in the stomach.
Yeah, no,
That's a
for
huge
sure.
thing.
Yeah, or even strip them of the opioids, and then now they're turning towards the streets to get street drugs. Now fentanyl is a huge rise, um, and it's one of those things where it's kind of scary, because it doesn't matter who it is. It could be a mom, a uncle, a brother, a sister. Anybody can fall victim of addiction. So it's a very what I say, it's a very powerful message and powerful for the plant. Like there's people like me and you that actually were able to do what people say we couldn't do with the plant. You know what I mean? Which is stop pain and stop, PTSD, help PTSD, all these different types of things that we can, I don't want to say cure, but help our ailments, you know what I mean? For sure.
Absolutely, like getting out and doing all this stuff like that. You say, and being out in this environment, and my back is just I couldn't move without it. Like
Yeah.
there's no way. I had a L5S1 discectomy, and
Oh,
I just without this plan, I would have never
yeah.
made it and everything else. So, it's an amazing thing. So, hopefully with programs like yours and mine, and people like Matt and Charlie and the rest of your guests here, pushing everything forward. We can stop that stigma. We can get people involved. Different ways to consume the plant.
Right.
RSO, edibles, tablets, capsules, drinks, which like no percentage of the market right now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Even suppositories.
Suppositories.
Yeah, they're really big. Time for the fun questions. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. It's an honor to actually sit down and interview you. I remember we were up in Rockaway, helping out one of our buddies, and I actually got to meet you. I never thought you were going to come around in my neck of woods, and yeah, now you're back, and I'm happy I'm able to interview you and get to know you a little bit more. It gives it more, more of a I don't want to say like yeah, more of a personality. You know what I mean? Get to know you more, and sometimes when you can relate to somebody so much well, you actually like kind of like build a bond, and you kind of relate to that person a lot more. Um, and yeah, it's I like what you're doing.
Thank
In
you.
short words, I really like what you're doing,
Thank you.
and
Thank you so
and I
much.
watch you
appreciate it.
and I follow you.
Thank you so much.
One of the go-to questions after a sesh, what are you rating your fridge or your kitchen for?
And I drink coffee religiously, that. So there's always drinking coffee, and then next to the fridge is it's just a thing of double stuffed Oreos,
Double stuffed
and
Oreos?
they just live there, and they make them real resealable now through the top.
Yeah,
which is
yeah,
like
yeah.
great, so you don't
Yeah.
have to. But
They
yeah,
don't get stale.
slide a couple of them out, and
Yeah.
that's normally what it is.
I can't slide a couple of them out. It's just a whole sleeve ends up disappearing every time I tap into them.
Yeah, it's tough, but yeah, definitely. I normally go for the sweets.
Yeah. Sweets? Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So butter cakes, brownies is probably on the
Yeah,
it's up
absolutely.
there.
Oh yeah.
So if you weren't in the cannabis industry or reporting the cannabis or covering, what would you be doing?
What would I be doing? That's an interesting question. At this point in time, I'd probably be back at the marina.
Yeah.
Yeah, I worked at the marina for about 12 years before this, but like broke my body doing it, and quit my job to start this kind of like everybody else talks. I put everything into my business, and I opened a dispensary and everything else. Uh, I just kind of decided one day that like if I was going to do this, like this was it, and I kind of quit
Yeah.
my job and went into it full force. So yeah, I always like working with my hands, something with my hands. I'm a carpenter, and building things, and so probably something like that.
It must be a rough transition period.
Yeah, it was interesting to go from like being on the water every day and all that to like locked in the office and stuff. But I enjoy it. I wouldn't change it now at this point.
Yeah. You got any hidden talents, random hobbies that you do? Maybe apart, when you're off camera, when you're just chilling.
I I I mean, yeah, I can pretty much fix or do just about anything. I'm an ex-chief. I'm a volunteer
Okay.
fireman. I did that or whatever. I'm 25 plus years
Yeah.
since I was
So
18.
so it
So
seems like you're very, very committed to community.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
very
absolutely. I've been giving back to my local community since I was 15 through the fire department. We do a local fair. It's one of the largest. It's the largest fireman's fair in the state. Second largest fair in the state, only to the state fair. And we've been doing that for a long time. So giving back and stuff was kind of always ingrained in me, and I've just been part of my life. And like, people are like, "Oh, you're a fireman and everything else," and like as a volunteer, it's just kind of like
yeah,
for so many years, it's just what you do.
yeah. Yeah.
So it's just part of it. But yeah,
All right. Let me get the last one. What's your dream vacation spot?
dream vacation spot. At this point in time in my life, I'd have to say, heading out to the Gorge to catch Dave Matthews Band at this point in time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had it set up a couple of times and it fell through. And you know, the next time I pull the trigger on it, I'm not gonna back out. So yeah, that's up there right now on the bucket list of things I'd like to get done.
Yeah,
But
definitely. Definitely, those are moments that you probably cherish, and it has a lot of, and it's also different, man. When you go to a concert and you feel that vibe, that energy, that I feel like that stays with you.
Absolutely. It really does.
But yeah, man, that's about it, guys.
All
Again,
right.
this is Mike, the dispensary guy. He covers a lot of stuff from the NJCRC, helps out a lot of local dispensaries. He's community guy, even more than what I thought. Now that I got to know you more, it really deep roots in the community. He cares for the community, and he also cares about the industry and what we are consuming, and just keeps us updated. Do you have any message to anybody? Any shout outs?
No, yeah, just like I say, nobody should be in jail for cannabis. Remember, we can stop that green stigma.
Yeah.
Live every Wednesday night at 9 on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, LinkedIn, X, all of them.
Where at? It's all the Dispensary Guy?
All the Dispensary Guy. Just punch it in anywhere
just
you
look
are.
him up, the Dispensary
it.
Guy. You'll find him.
You'll find it. And Casa Verde NJ, at Casa Verde NJ on YouTube. Check it out. Make sure you
guys.
hit that like and thumbs up.
He's good with all that. Right? I need to work on that.
He'll get better. Hey, this is 170 something episodes in. So
the experience is there. The experience is there.
Congratulations.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you, man. I hope to see you more.
Absolutely.
Hopefully we can get you down to the burn up cleanups. I don't know if you heard about them.
Cleanup, May 4th.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Hope you stop by, come meet the dispensary guy, come talk to him. Stay tuned and keep out for his stuff and new stories and all that coming out.